This is Kip, and yes, Kip, and he's a purebred border collie.
So how did you and Kip get involved in this?
Well, I actually got involved with a previous dog. I had a rescue dog that was a Husky Shepherd, and I got him when he was about 1.5 years old, and he was very nervous. He was afraid of men, wouldn't walk on tiled floors. And so I started taking him to visit my mother, who was living in a senior's residence. And while we were there, many of the other residents who like dogs would ask if they could pat him. So we sort of got started unofficially. And then I gradually realized that St. John Ambulance had a program and figured we should probably make it official.
For years, the St. John Ambulance System has been running a therapy dog program, and those dogs and their handlers come from all across Nova Scotia and, in fact, Canada. Now, they attend hospices and hospitals, schools and workplaces. That's today on NSK9.
Was just realizing how much the people in my mother's seniors home enjoyed the dog, and wondering if there was a way to get involved officially, let's say, and do it on a more official basis. And I just did a little research and heard some really good things about St. John Ambulance and their therapy dog program and what they did. So I got involved with Max, and he was involved for 10 years as a therapy dog. And when he was about 12, I wanted to get a puppy because he was getting older. And I asked the breeder, explained that I really wanted a dog that I could introduce to be a therapy dog so that I could continue the work. And so I bought Kip sight unseen from a breeder in Gatineau, in Ontario.
So we are a completely volunteer operated program with support from myself and a couple other staff members, especially our staff member in PEI. She handles everything there. But we have, I think, about 250 volunteers now in Nova Scotia and PEI who volunteer their time to go out in the community and just make people happy with their dogs.
So how did this come about?
Yeah, so actually, interestingly enough, we're going into our 30th year anniversary of the therapy dog program in Canada. So it started in Salisbury, Ontario in 1992 with just one person. They were a part of St. John Ambulance, and they were also obviously interested in therapy dogs, and somehow it just blossomed from there. And then here in Nova Scotia, we have had it since 1999. Yeah, and PEI in 2000.
They will go through an evaluation to be a St. John Ambulance therapy dog. And you can't keep going to evaluation if you fail. You only get 2 tries. So you can fail once, and then the people who are evaluating will give you some information about what you need to work on. And I will tell you, when I first brought Max to be evaluated, he failed.
And he had some experience.
And he had done it, but he was part Husky, and he was very vocal. So being in a room with other dogs, because you're evaluated with other dogs and people, he was talking to everybody and just disrupting. So I chose to take him out.
We don't discriminate at all based on breed or age or anything like that. We do require them to be at least 1 year old, just so that the puppies out of them a little bit.
Get that energy going.
Yes, and it's interesting because it varies on breed, right? Like a 1-year-old golden retriever is very different from a 1-year-old German Shepherd. Like they have very different personalities at that age. But I would say we usually let the owners of the dog decide. They look at their dog, they see a calm, friendly, active like interactive dog, and they think, wow, this dog could help people. We do see a lot of the time where people say that this dog is my therapy dog, so why don't we, share that with everybody else? Yeah, that's usually what we see. Not always. I mean, we do have some unsuccessful teams, whether that be that they're just a little too shy, the wheelchair freaks them out, or, they're not comfortable being around other dogs. A lot of the times people primarily think nursing homes because of the nature of the pet therapy. It's just very low key. It could be as interactive as you'd want. So long-term care, we have a lot of dogs there. We also go to the hospitals. We also go to hospice. We go to different schools, high schools, elementary schools. We used to do a program where we'd go into the libraries and we'd get the kids to read to the dogs, which was very, very cute. Unfortunately, because of COVID, obviously that has stopped, but we're trying to get that back up and running as well.
Now, you do work at the airport too, as we can see from your shirt. Now, I know that COVID's been a bit strange because there hasn't been a lot going on at the airport, but in normal times, what would that entail?
Well, we thought when we started the program, and I started with when I had the other dog, and he was an older, more experienced therapy dog, let's say, and they asked for a trial program at the airport, and they assumed it was going to be for passengers who were nervous of flying. Well, it's turned out to be a lot more than that. A lot of times it'll be the crew of a plane that's just maybe had a bad flight and they've come off and they stop and talk to the dogs. We often have bored children who are sitting around, so we very often end up sitting on the floor with the dog and a group of children and talking and playing with the dog, getting them to do tricks and things. We've had people who've come to bury loved ones, so they're upset. So we the dogs are a little bit of an intermediary. We deal with the staff. We go to departures. People have had delayed flights and they're annoyed and they're upset and they're frustrated. So it's a lot of different things that we do. It's different every time we go.
And what difference do you see in people when they meet the dogs?
Well, at the airport especially, sometimes they're really frustrated. They've had a bad day, their luggage has been lost, their flight's been delayed, they're really upset, and the dog comes along. And just because the dog comes over and puts his head on their knee and they start engaging with the dog, they calm right down, and they'll often say, oh, I was just in such a state, and 5 minutes with your dog and I feel so much better. So I think dogs aren't judgmental. They don't look at you and go, you're in a bad mood, I better not go talk to you. They just come over anyway because they're that type of an animal.
Dogs can sense human emotion a few ways. They can recognize facial expression, and they can even recognize that in photos, some studies are showing. But also they can detect our stress hormones or excitement hormones. So when you're happy, things like serotonin, oxytocin, dopamine, or stressed, cortisol, which is our stress hormone, they can pick up on those signals as well. And also your vocalizations. So if you're raising your voice, things like that, they can kind of piece it all together and get a good idea of how you're feeling.
So this is Lola. She's been my dog for about 10 years. She's 13 years old, and we've been a therapy dog team pretty much since I got her. I got her certified that first year, yeah.
Wow. What made you interested in doing this kind of thing?
Well, I've always loved volunteering, and I thought that I didn't really want to leave my dog after I got home from work. So I was like, what's something I could volunteer at that I could bring my dog with me? And I knew she had such a good disposition from it. She was like so calm and sweet, so I thought she would be a really good fit for the program. So we visit the seniors facility that's in our neighborhood. So there's like a seniors home just like a couple blocks away from us. So we visit there regularly, and then we can do other things kind of as the opportunity comes up. So in addition to that, we sometimes if they do a call out, that they want a visitor for a specific thing. Like we've went to some youth programs because she's also certified to work with children, because that's like the second level of certification.
Oh wow, okay.
Yeah, so they need extra I guess training for that.
Yep.
So we do that sometimes, and I've also brought her to work a couple of times, like just for therapy dog visits specifically.
Really?
Yeah, during high stress times and that sort of thing.
What sort of work do you do?
I work for labor skills and immigration.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that can be a very hectic time for people.
Yeah, big time. And I work with conciliation and mediation services,
wow.
so
Yeah.
lots of conflict.
You guys do a calendar.
Yes, each year we do a calendar for a fundraiser.
Okay.
And
Of
all
the
the
therapy
proceeds.
dog.
Yeah, all the proceeds go back to the program, but each dog in here is a therapy dog with us.
So there's a dog from Pictou who's no longer with us.
Yes.
But the, I guess the sibling of that dog, if you will,
Yeah.
is now in the program.
Yeah.
Yogi, I
Yes.
think name. But it was Bubba, right? Mm-hmm. And Bubba's featured in here.
Yes,
All
Bubba
right.
was featured in our last year's calendar. Let's see where he is. There he is.
Oh my goodness, that is adorable. Now,
Yep.
those are very large. They're Leon burgers, right?
Yeah, Leon Berger, yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'd never seen one before until I met Yogi, and I was taken aback, to say the least.
You can take them places. They're just an amazing dog, and especially for the therapy work, because they're so large. They're something for the residents to talk about. Makes them easy reach for the wheelchairs and their beds.
So, what made you interested in getting into therapy work?
I had seen some shows and some things that have been done, and I thought, what a great way to give back. And at that point in time, my dog, Bubba, was very soft and seemed to know when people were upset. So I thought it would be a good fit for us. And I was losing my job at that time, so I became a therapy dog person.
And Bubba ended up with his own business card too.
Bubba has his
or
own
a hockey
card.
card. It's more like a hockey card,
Hockey
isn't
cards
it?
from St. John Ambulance. Bubba and I were also presented with the Proxy Award, which won the St. John's highest awards for volunteerism.
Wow. So that was Bubba.
Yes.
And now Yogi has taken over Bubba's role.
Yes, and Bubba made a huge impact on a lot of people here.
Oh, yeah?
I sadly didn't get to meet him, but I mean, Robert, like my supervisor, talks about him all the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
So these dogs really touch people in a
Yes.
heartwarming and close way.
Yes, and we do encourage weekly visits or bi-weekly or monthly, just to go into the same place with the same people so that they create relationships with you, and then that just adds to the therapeutic value.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah.
With Yogi and before this Bubba, but with your dogs, with them being so big, do you ever run into people being a little bit fearful of the size?
We do. We've had that case a few times. For one case, we had the lady that was in charge of the 5th floor at the hospital. She was terrified of dogs. She'd had a bad experience. She wasn't a very big lady. And she watched Bubba with her residents, and by the 2 months in, she would come over and pet him. And she said
Wow.
she was amazed. She watched him and how kind, so she'd gotten over her fear of being around them.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it was pretty touching to say, like, she said, I'm not really safe with all dogs, but with Bubba, I am.
How'd that make you feel?
Very proud of them, very proud. I really enjoyed that work, yeah.
The St. John ambulance dogs that I've seen are often big dogs.
Yeah.
Is that common?
I would say the bigger dogs are less hyper.
Oh, interesting.
So that's why they make really good therapy dogs, because they're very chill, but they're also at a nice height for people to pet, right?
Yeah.
They don't have to bend over to pet the little dogs. They can just, be right here.
That's a good point. I suppose if you're in a wheelchair too, it's right at wheelchair height.
Yeah, exactly.
He just passed his test.
Yes, he just passed his test for his therapy papers, so in a couple more months we'll be going to get our second level for children and special needs.
Oh, wow. And so what's involved in that?
Testing like a lot of noise, movement. They don't have to be 100% of obedience, but they need to be around people, be calm, if they get excited, to be settled very quickly, no aggression, no fear and flight response, because that could knock older people over and down. So we really don't want that to happen.
That makes sense. What is it that makes a good therapy dog?
Well, definitely a dog that doesn't bite is always good.
That's probably a good start.
Yeah, that's always a good start. But other than that, like if they have like a calm disposition, it's great. If they're like, if they enjoy the company of people, if they don't mind strange people approaching them, if they've got some patience.
Little things, especially if they're visiting seniors, having the dog's nails cut short so that on fragile skin they're not going to paw at someone and cut them. having a dog that's not going to jump up on people. They can't just run up to people and jump on them. Being able to read people's body language. Do they like dogs? Do they not like dogs? Are they comfortable around dogs? And I think all of those things, it's not just the dog, it's us knowing how to approach people. And I think all those things are important. But I think as far as the dog goes, getting the dog to be calm in different situations, ensuring that they're socialized well. And that doesn't mean going to daycare every day. It means taking them into where there's a lot of noise, going into a situation here where there's a slippery floor and there's a lot of people, and we're going to see children today. So meeting people of different ages. We get people in wheelchairs. We have people with walkers. We have, people that are nonverbal sometimes in the seniors' homes. So I think the handler needs to be comfortable and then ensure that the dog is also comfortable in those situations. So, yeah, it's not as simple as saying, I have a nice dog and he's very friendly and he should be a therapy dog. Because that
There's a little bit more to it.
There's a little bit more to it than that. But I do think if anyone's got a dog that they feel is calm, reads people well, doesn't get excited if the doorbell rings and get wound up, then maybe think about it and talk to people here at St. John Ambulance about what's involved.
So maybe we should get some pictures of you then, eh? What do you think? Okay.
He's a pretty special guy.
Ideally once a year, but not all dogs need that high frequency. It all depends on the level of the periodontal disease. So if you're brushing, maybe you don't need to come in as often because you're doing a good job keeping the tartar and plaque at bay. But as in dog ages, we seem to see more dental disease, so older dogs maybe need them more frequent. Certain breeds are smaller breeds. They tend to have a higher rate of dental disease, as well as dogs maybe on a raw diet where they're not getting a lot of crunch in their food. Bones will keep teeth very clean. In general, we don't recommend actual hard bones because they're so hard, and we often see broken teeth with that. And then you have endodontic disease where now it's traveled deeper and now we know we need to take that tooth out. So they will keep the teeth quite clean, but if you do choose to use them, just be aware that you may get broken teeth with them.
It's very rewarding, it really is. I mean, we work with children. We go to the universities to give kids, when they're tense before exams, to help them. We have volunteers go into the hospitals when they're allowed. So we do a lot of different things. And we often get called into something like we're doing today, which is the pediatric vaccine clinic. So if people are a little bit nervous, sometimes it's just seeing the dog and it distracts you that little bit and you forget about what you were nervous about.
I think we just can learn a lot from dogs, like how they live in the moment and they're not stressed out and they're, well, not many of them, not the therapy dogs anyway. And I guess they're just so affectionate and so present that it makes us like that too.
There's so many benefits to having a dog just around you, but primarily pet therapy, it's like emotional, social, mental, and physical health just from, petting a dog and being distracted for 10 minutes out of your day, or if somebody's suffering with dementia, then, getting them to focus on something for 10 minutes, just the benefit is unparalleled.
What surprised you most since you've arrived with it?
I think what surprised me most, obviously, so I'm a recreation therapist by trade, so we learned a lot about pet therapy in school, but to see it in action and to feel the joy that it brings people is honestly what it surprised me the most.
What surprised you most about being involved in this program?
I guess how much we've gotten out of it as well, right? Like, it's not like you're just giving back, but like you get a lot out of the relationships that you build and that sort of thing. Like, I've made some really, really good friends at the seniors facility, and I really look forward to, you know, just sitting around and spending some time with them as well, so.
And what's their reaction when Lola comes in?
Oh, they just love it. And I think one of the things that happens the most is they'll want to tell you about their dog. Like the dog that they had when they were children or when they were growing up. And
So it brings back memories too.
yeah, exactly. And it's really like a jumping off point for the conversation. And a lot of, like, say if somebody's got dementia or something, you might go in every week and they'll tell you the same story every week, not knowing that you've heard it, but they tell it like with such like enthusiasm and warmness every time that it's, yeah, it's really nice.
Yeah, so to the community as a whole, I think it brings joy, honestly. I've tried as much as I can in my short time with St. John Ambulance so far. I've tried to go out as many times as I can to see, you know, the impact in person, whether it be just a vaccine clinic or not just, but a vaccine clinic or, you know, going into the high schools. You just see this, like, just incredible energy and joy from what the dog brings. It's just a different presence and a what's the word? The dogs don't care who you are or what you're doing there. They're just there to be pet and have fun.
What would you like people to know about the therapy dog program?
I would love for people to know how accessible it is. It is truly one phone call, one email to me or anybody at this office, and you can get a dog to go into your office if your employees are, you know, overly stressed, or you can get a dog to go into your elementary school if you think that some kids could benefit from it. It is truly for the community, and I feel like a lot of people think it's primarily for, you know, nursing homes or clinical settings and things like that.
People would be surprised to hear that.
Yeah, so it's really for anybody. I mean, we get them to come here sometimes because, you know, everybody needs a little bit of joy and comfort sometimes.
I love doing it. I meet so many interesting people. We obviously have issues, but sometimes we get lovely letters and emails back saying, do you realize how much of a difference you made when you did this? Can you, you know, how can we tell you how much having that dog there, especially at the airport? We had an email come back from a gentleman in London. I had sat with his daughter and son at the airport. The daughter was very upset, and he said she was leaving her grandparents, and, you know, we never know whether this is going to be the last time we see them, and we live in London and they live here. And so just sitting on the floor and talking about the dog and distracting her a little bit, he said, we were able to have a really comfortable flight back to London. And he said, I don't think that would have happened without the dog.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes we don't realize what we're doing. I didn't know what had happened. I didn't know why she was upset. So I think the feedback is always rewarding.
Off-leash dog parks are becoming increasingly popular across North America, Canada, and here in Nova Scotia. They come with their own challenges. That's next week on NSK9.
Lots of education, and maybe working with industry that works with the dogs, whether it's the pet shops or the trainers, and really educating people about responsible ownership. And most people do get it, but that's the one emphasis I would really focus on. You know, it's helping people to understand that everyone thinks Fido's a good dog, and Fido may be a good dog, but if someone else's dog is not so great, or a person's nervous of a dog, we should recognize those cues that person's not comfortable with dogs, not allowing your dog to run up to another animal, not allowing your dog to jump on somebody. So it's that own control. I mean, sometimes people get really upset about dogs, and I don't blame the dogs.